live from my bedroom in West Bloomfield, Michigan, and Jason's bedroom in West Bloomfield, Michigan. This is Bagels and Locks, episode 5. I am your host, Brandon Rothenberg, alongside my co-host, Jason Silverstone. Jason, buddy, how are you? It's good to be back.
I'm doing well, Habibi. How are you doing?
And I can't complain. Weather's it's getting a little steamy these days. You know, we're halfway through June. Summertime's really kicking in, and with us here in Michigan, man, we know a thing or two about humidity, let's just say, and it's no fun.
It honestly doesn't even really feel like it's halfway through June. It just feels like it's like March, like 212th. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I've seen ads for, I want to say it was like a Target commercial or something, and the premise of the commercial was like, you don't know what day it is. And I was like, wow, this is actually something that's affecting everyone. Like, no one knows what day it is. What day is it right now? Quick. Come on.
It's Friday.
All right. Friday.
Well, that's just because we got some big sporting events going on tomorrow, which we'll touch on a little later in the episode. That's the only reason. Like usually anyways, sports was the only thing. It was class and sports are the two things that like I knew what day of the week it was. And I kind of just have neither of those right now, even though I am finishing up my 2 classes at state. I got like a week left on both of them. Super excited about that.
That's awesome.
But because they're online, it's just like, you have something due everything's kind of due one day of the week. You have the whole week to get it done. So that hasn't really been keeping me in line. And then obviously no sports other than, UFC like once a week and then Korean baseball at 5 a.m. But that's pretty much every day. So
I was gonna say at 5 a.m. Yeah, man, it's tough, but I think we're all hanging in there. We got a great show for you guys today. We have Averee Dovesk, who is joining us. Avery's on the golf team at Hofstra. Her and I met when we interned at the Golf Channel last summer. She's also doing some intern work right now with SiriusXM, and she has a podcast of her own. So we will get to her later in the episode. But for now, Jason, let's start with some of the bigger news in the NBA. And the first thing that I actually want to touch upon before we break into our first story that we want to talk about, because
touch upon it.
I saw this yesterday, and I think it's crazy, and I think it's stupid, and it's those rings. The ring that all the players are saying are the tracking rings.
The smart ring.
The smart rings. I right off the bat, I saw it and I thought, this is messed up, because if these rings are legit, then where have they been for the rest of the public? Like, that ring, they say it's 3 days, up to 3 days in advance. You won't know if you're experiencing symptoms or yada, yada, yada. And I was like, well, if that's the case, that thing could work wonders for the rest of the world. So how come the NBA, are the only people that get to have it and experiment with this? And the results are being checked by the University of Michigan. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see that, but my thinking on that is that it's probably like super expensive to get these, right? Like technology you can just wear and it tells you about this virus no one knows about, 3 days before you're going to have symptoms. So I assume it's super expensive, but I did see some tweets and some stuff on social media saying, like, really, like, we're giving this to NBA players, not like frontline workers or like teachers or, anything like along those lines, which was interesting. But I was reading more about it, and it's funny because, a lot of the sports scientists and stuff are tweeting saying like, who cares if it's going to say, you have, some symptoms or like, you have like an increased heart rate or like, some of the symptoms are not as severe as the others, like, loss of taste, loss of smell, and the more, for sure symptoms. So they're saying, with some of these smaller symptoms, if the ring notifies them of that, the teams probably aren't going to be, they said they probably won't bench the players. You know what I mean? If it's just
minor,
like a minor cold type of
like
symptom type of
allergies
thing. Yeah.
even. I mean,
And so
well, that's one of the
that's what I was thinking
issues.
about. And I also saw another tweet saying, even in a year where almost every NBA team gets a ring, the Knicks still won't get one because they're not going to Florida.
Yeah, yep. I saw a couple ring meme jokes. You knew that it was imminent. It was bound to happen. And yeah, yep. There's 8 teams out there that aren't getting their share of the rings. But I think it's a little on the stupid side. And a lot of these players are coming out saying that they think they're trackers. Now they don't have to wear them. They're not required to wear
Yeah,
them.
they're optional.
But there are things that they have to wear. It was like a Disney. I haven't been to Disney World or like Universal in a really long time. But the way I understand is now they have these like armbands that everyone
Yeah,
wears that will
they're like
say
little
like,
wristbands, little
yeah,
bracelets.
yeah, that
They like
have
key
maybe
you
like
into your
ride.
hotel, or they used to be for fast passes
Yeah.
if you're in the park. But yeah, I mean that part makes sense. I mean, if that's the way you get into your hotel, then your hotel room, sure.
Well, now they're saying that those are going to be used as like trackers. There are things out there that will. I saw something that was like players will be notified if they've been around other players for too long. Something crazy like that. I mean, that's a little bit over the top, considering what's the difference? They're going to be playing each other anyway.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, crazy technology, man.
Well, in addition to, you talking about things over the top, I don't know if you read about this. It was the NBA. They have like 113 pages of new rules that the players have to follow. And I mean, they're obviously just to keep them safe, but some of them are pretty funny. Like for ping pong, there's like no doubles allowed. It's only singles until they're notified to keep
No
people 6 feet
way.
apart. When they golf, there's no caddies allowed. There's just
That's great.
some pretty funny ones. I think there's like no headsets for the game, for the like communal gaming room. They have like 2K that everyone can play and stuff like that. And it also said that players are encouraged to snitch on each other and say like, this guy was doing this, he needs to be quarantined, we can't have him on the court, which I think is interesting because I mean, obviously, like let's say you're the Lakers, if you're Alex Caruso and you see LeBron and Anthony Davis playing doubles and ping pong, like you're not going to say anything.
You're not
But
ratting out your boys.
exactly, but on, the inverse of that is you see people on the other team doing something, and let's say you're playing them next night or you got a big playoff series coming up against them, even if you
Yeah.
don't see them doing it, if you snitch on them, it's kind of like a code of honor thing because they're going to take it really seriously if they get a report of, someone not following the new rules and conduct.
I'll tell you what, there's a rule here. I mean, it's rather self-explanatory, but this says more from the hygiene department. I love that start. The league wants players to cut down on all the high fives, fist bumps, and hugs, and at least maintain 6 feet of distance. So, granted, that was already the case. We knew that. But
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it now, I feel like there's going to be so many instances and so many memes and things you'll see on Twitter of like LeBron like going like you're saying like goes to like dap up AD and then it's like oh wait
Oh,
and then
yeah.
they like pull back, like that will happen often and that will be made fun of heavily. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, that should be great. And I also saw another one that said players are encouraged and advised to stop fiddling so much with their mouth guards. So thank
Wow,
God Steph Curry and the
Steph.
Warriors are not in the playoffs this year because I don't know if he would be able to follow that rule. I mean, when is this
No,
guy not playing with his mouth guard? I feel like it's just all game.
right, yes, that's interesting and he's really the only one you even think of. I like at least when see him visibly playing with his mouth guard all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, there are some crazy rules here. I'm really excited. We're about a month or so away. Um, so I've also seen some things too. I saw it with baseball though, considering that's still up in the air. But excuse me, in terms of the being able to hear what players are saying, all the trash talk that's going on. We've talked about this a lot before, but
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of people are really looking forward to. And I wonder, do the players have some sort of like plan of action to like try and limit their, I don't know, who knows how often they're swearing out there, or I mean, we've seen it happen. All the NSFW videos that like Complex or Bleacher Report or someone out there will tweet. So
Yeah.
we don't know, but that's
I,
something awesome to look forward to.
I was listening to Part of My Take, I think like a week ago or something, and they were kind of talking about a similar thing, but for the NFL, and which we've also talked about whether they're going to do that or not. It's pretty much any sport. Uh, but one of the hosts, PFT, made a pretty good point, and he said, I feel like when these guys, like at first, they might be a little self-conscious of it, but when they're like in a close game near the end of the game or in the heat of the moment, like a middle of the game, they're not thinking about, oh, like everyone can hear me right now. They're thinking about, get me the ball or get this rebound or make this big stop or, any of those types of things. So I think that we're
Right.
going to be pleasantly surprised and hear more than we think, we're going to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point that he brings, because in the heat of those moments in that situation, you're not gonna think, try not to swear, or like try not to go crazy, because it's just gonna happen. It's only natural. So we talked a little bit about these strict rules and all the crazy detail into the limitations that players have. So now they've came out. There's an article in the New York Post about the hotels where the teams will be staying. So
Yep.
that's initially what I thought was going to happen. I knew that they wouldn't all be in the same venue, because one, they probably can't even hold everyone in the same spot, but also like, it's you have the idea of like that, the village, like the Olympic style village. So it would make more sense to have people maybe a little bit spread out, and then you could gather in those player lounges or outside wherever they've been talking about. But what I find interesting, Jason, is that they have in terms of the seeding of the teams, the 22 teams that will be there in Orlando, they've basically chunked into three chunks the teams that basically will be, the better teams per se, no other way to
Yeah.
put it, and the worst teams, they're all together in the hotel. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean they sort of have it set up in different ways where it's like, the Grand Destinino Tower at the Coronado Springs Resort, which is only a year old. That team is like all the title contenders, right? So that team has the Bucks, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, Celtics, Jazz, Raptors, Heat, sort of falls off a little at the end. And then at the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, which is, the middle tier of these three hotels that they have the middle of the pack teams. So they have the Sixers, the Grizzlies, Magic, Mavericks, Nets, Pacers, Rockets, and Thunder. And then lastly, at Disney's Yacht Club Resort, which is like, that's not a bad hotel to be at by any means,
No,
but
no,
compared to the other two, it's like, I think it's like the oldest one and doesn't have as many amenities and all that stuff. That has the Kings, Pelicans, Spurs, Suns, Blazers, and Wizards. So pretty much all the teams are expecting to not make the playoffs. Um,
yeah,
and
it's kind of
it
it's
makes sense. It definitely makes sense because you're gonna, like, the Lakers will probably go all the way to the finals, or the Clippers, one of those two teams out of the West, and the Bucks
yeah,
definitely will out of the East for the most part. So it makes sense to have them staying at the newest, nicest place with all the cool stuff.
because they're
But
gonna be there longer,
exactly.
essentially.
However, it's also just a pretty big slap in the face to the other teams at the end of the
Yes,
day. You know what I mean?
yes.
It makes sense, but I think you the way they should have done it is like kind of randomly, or maybe pick teams out of a hat, sort of figure it out that way, and just, wow, somehow the Clippers, Lakers, and Bucks ended up at the Grand Destino Tower, at the nicest one, but the rest are sort of jumbled around. uh but yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think of this. This is an interesting scenario. I don't know how familiar you are with like the Disney World Resort hotels or whatnot. My family and I, we stayed. This is like 2008. We stayed at, it was called like the Pop Century Hotel. So they have like numerous hotels as a part of their, I don't know,
Yeah.
Disney, resort, whatever. And this Pop Century Hotel was like, I mean, it was the low end of the hotels, right? So it would be really funny if they put like those teams in like the crap of
Like
those
just
hotels.
fully skip down to like the worst ones they had.
Right. Um, yeah, so it's those three hotels though, especially that new one, the Grand Destino Tower or whatever, that looks sweet. But
Yeah.
for our standards, for us, those I wouldn't mind staying at either of those hotels. And they are NBA players. They're still going to be, treated like anywhere else they would go if they were traveling, playing in the playoffs during the regular season, what have you. I want to ask, do you think there's any teams that should be based on how these?
In the Grand Destino Tower
Do you
that
think
aren't?
there are Grand Floridian teams that should be in the Destino or vice versa? What do you feel?
Um, I think the Yacht Club with the Kings, Pelicans, Spurs, Suns, Blazers, Wizards, I think they got that spot on. I think those teams are pretty surefire to just be out of there as soon as they're unpacking, they're packing their bags to go home.
Okay.
As far as the Grand Floridian, I feel like a lot of people think the Sixers should be in the Destino Tower, but if you look at the Sixers road record, which is something that me and two of my roommates back at Linden were looking at it during the school year, we actually
I was
took a
there
bet.
too.
Do you remember this? We took a
Yes, it was
bet
me,
on
you,
their
Hammer,
under.
and Check.
Yeah, we took a bet on their under win total because they are the worst team in the NBA on the road by far,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like the best team in the NBA at home by far. Like it's crazy how different their records are. So obviously they're not going to be playing in Philadelphia in front of their fans and all this stuff. So
No,
they're probably going to lose a decent amount of games, to be
you
honest with you.
based
And
on your knowledge and your thinking, the Sixers, quote unquote, should have been at that yacht club
true, but
resort.
at the same time they can't do it because the Sixers are like supposed to be a good team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they gotta keep that appeal. The Grizzlies have been playing great this whole year. They could possibly be a yacht club resort team though, because
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, I mean their best players are Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant, and they have a combined total of 3 years in the league between the two of them. So I feel like they weren't going to be making a deep playoff run this year. The Magic, I think you could also throw them into the yacht club, but I guess they'll stay at
Yes.
the Floridian. The Mavericks, interestingly enough, are actually one of the better road teams in the NBA, and they've had some close games with the Nuggets. They've had some close games with the Lakers. I've liked what I've seen from Dallas this year. That's one of the teams I would possibly move up to Grand Destino Tower, even though I
Mm.
don't think that they quite have it together yet to make the title run. The Nets, I mean, they belong. I'm sorry, but they definitely belong in the yacht club. Um, they, with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they're a Grand Destino Tower team, but they don't have
Yes.
either of those guys. They're a yacht club team. Dinwiddie and Jared Allen, as gritty as they've been and as good of a performance as they gave, before the whole NBA got shut down, um, they're not really doing anything. Pacers, they were really actually pretty good, and they were surging and playing really well on the road, putting up competitive games against West teams. They're actually one of the more fun teams to watch in the league. And then they ended up like right before COVID hit the NBA. Like I'd say for like the 2 or 3 weeks before that, they just started going on the complete opposite direction and just were losing a lot of games, not really
Yeah.
playing too well together. So I feel like they're in the right spot. I don't really, know what to do about that. Rockets, I mean, they just can't get it done. You know what I mean? Like
And
I
you
feel like
can,
they belong where
yes.
they are, but like you could make the argument that they belong in the Grand Destino Tower.
Well, I'm sure.
And
I'll tell you what, Harden and Westbrook, they're going to try their hardest to go chill at that Grand Destino
yeah,
resort.
that's where all their
I
friends
will.
are.
I will tell you that much. They will be fiending to get out of the Grand Floridian and head over to the Grand Destino Tower. Now we should mention that things, the NBA could rosters and what have you may turn upside down within the next couple of weeks leading up to the
Yeah,
start date for July 30th because as you know, I'm sure a lot of players have talked about um, you know backing out for this season and have decided not to play based on everything that's going on in the world right now. So that will definitely be interesting. I know Dwight Howard has talked a lot about possibly not playing, who's also having a great season. For
incredible season
his
for him.
for
Yeah,
his age and for as long as he's been playing, he's looking really good. So he definitely brings some value to that team. So it's a matter of who wants to stick it out and keep playing, or who doesn't. Who's gonna not take part in this interesting season at hand. So I think we can move on here. Jason, I know that the Pistons very recently struck gold, one could say, by hiring Troy Weaver as our new general manager. So what are your thoughts?
yeah. I believe that we got him yesterday, which would be Thursday, June 18th, because we are recording this on Friday, June 19th. But I really like this hire. This is a guy who has worked with Sam Presti, who's the GM of the Thunder, for years and years, and we know the types of players the Thunder have gotten. I heard that this guy helped scout Russell Westbrook and was one of the reasons they actually ended up taking Russell Westbrook in OKC. Um, they weren't too high on him, but he's like, no, like trust me, you got to do it. James Harden, um, he's followed along with Presti for a while now. We saw how competitive and how well built those OKC teams were for so many years. And then
Mhm.
obviously Kevin Durant left, and James Harden left before him, but rightfully so. James Harden had to get a bag, and OKC just simply couldn't afford him. And even now, they pretty much they gave away Paul George, and they got a ton of picks in return, a ton of assets, and they have this young team centered around Chris Paul. And look at them. I mean, they're going to Disney World, and they're staying at the Grand Floridian. They're not at the yacht club. They're like they're a pretty decent team. And I feel like this is a smart guy who's learned a lot in a successful franchise that has always been in contention and been good at acquiring pieces and sort of planning for the future. And Pistons are definitely in a rough spot right now. We're gonna have a top pick in the draft, this upcoming draft, and it's really important that we get it right. And I think this was an awesome hire, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say the draft that's coming up quickly next Thursday. So I wonder how much of an impact Weaver is gonna bring in terms of if we get that first pick. Who are we gonna take? There's a lot of discussion about LaMelo,
I
but
want
that's
Lamelo. Yeah.
I would say I agree with you. I feel you, but like I don't know. It could just be like a hype thing, and you
But
just don't
like,
know.
take the chance. Like, I think you got to take the chance. He's just, if you look at his play in the Australian League, he's just phenomenal. I think Lonzo Ball is a really good NBA player. Some people might disagree with me. I think his
He's
IQ is great.
matured for
He's he's
sure since he
he's
got into
definitely
the league.
matured. Jello's here's my theory, bro. Like, think about it this way. He's always had to compete against his two older brothers who've always been better at basketball than him growing up. So like he always had to try harder, put in more work, hungrier, all that stuff. And he's been the star of his Australian league and his team. I think he like bought an ownership stake in them now that he's leaving them to help make sure they do well. He's got his head in the right place, and I just think he's very talented. And the Pistons need a guard, um, in a bad way. So I think he could definitely help us. And him and Siku together could really be an awesome combination for years to come.
Yeah, sure. And also, on top of that, don't forget, we still have Blake. Although he's been, riddled with injuries, we still got another 2 years left on his contract, and I think we owe him like 70-something mil. So 2 years in terms of this rebuild, it's going to take a little bit longer than 2 years. So there is the potential that we let Blake go possibly next season, see what we can get in return. So that will definitely be interesting. But this new, GM and Troy Weaver, there's a lot to like there. We've seen he's got a good history in terms of making picks and getting the right guys. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of good things to be said about him, and only we'll have to wait and see what happens. So we're gonna move on here and talk a little bit about, and as much as I love baseball, I hate that we're still talking about this similar topic, that we still have no baseball. I'm not even going to get into it. We episode after episode after episode of Bagels and Locks, I am confident that
even with like a week and a half, 2-week break, we were still talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what the heck, Rob Manfred? I feel like Trevor Bauer, okay, hear me out. Whenever he's done and retired with baseball, he's a future commissioner.
I don't agree with you at all. I think that is so wrong. It is. I think he'll be the president of the MLBPA. I do not think he'll be commissioner.
Well, I won't. Yeah, okay, commissioner. Maybe that's a little strong, but I think regardless, he will have some sort of high-end position because he has been the voice of everything and everyone. Like I don't know if you saw, a lot of players were tweeting, we're ready, like tell us like when and where. A lot of them were tweeting that, and it was a whole big ordeal because you saw everyone tweeting it. Mike Trout, like if Trout's tweeting it, like then I mean the face of the major leagues. So it's been a mess, and I feel that we haven't even gotten that far, right?
Well, we've gotten absolutely nowhere. There's still no baseball.
Yes, there's still no baseball. The only positive was that the MLB draft came and went. The Tigers obviously got Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah, we did.
There's a lot of excitement there.
First overall pick in the entire draft. Don't forget to say that.
People are comparing him to the next Pete Alonso. They announced him as a third baseman, but he's always been a first baseman. So
I thought that was so strange. And we also drafted like 2 other third basemen.
We drafted Arizona State's third baseman. Like
his teammate.
Across the diamond. So that's actually a good thing. I always think when you draft in any sport, teammates, and especially those guys, when you have Torkelson, who could be like the next, I don't know, I don't want to get that excited, but could be one of the greats. When you have, his teammate, that chemistry just only builds and gets stronger, and who knows what's to come there. But yes, the MLB draft, granted, we got all these great additional bats because the Tigers already have a ton of power arms, and Matt Manning and Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize, who was our first pick of the first round draft back in 2018. We needed the bats, got the bats, but now we need baseball. So, Jason,
hold on. Before we talk about this, I have to bring something up that isn't in our show prep that we completely forgot about, but that you brought to my attention. Speaking of Tigers and powerful bats, how about Miguel Cabrera's single?
Yes. Let's see here. So
what's
Miguel
it called,
Cabrera.
Man? Oh, I gotta look this up.
I was in line at Marshall's with my mom, and dude, the lines right now, stores are crazy. Don't go to the store. I mean,
trust me, I'm not planning on it anytime soon.
I mean, we were in line, and I was so bored. And anyway, I came across this article that, Miguel Cabrera has dropped a new hit single. And so it's called Miggy Albate,
yeah.
Which, so Miggy at bat, right, is what it translates to. We've both listened to it. I'll tell you what, it doesn't sound like him. Like, I kind of know his voice pretty well, I'd say, but it doesn't Doesn't
I
sound like
mean,
it.
I feel like, in the studio they got some editing, some effects going on. But I got to be honest, when you first texted me about this, I responded, I'm like, this is not worth my time. Like, this song is going to suck. I just know it. And then I listened to it before you even listened to it. And I sent it back. I sent back to you. I'm like, wait, like, I'm pretty sure this song's actually like unreal. And, he goes on, and the chorus translates as Miggy at bat, checkmate, Miggy at bat, checkmate, Miggy at bat, checkmate. And he goes on and raps whatever. But my favorite part of the entire song, by far, hands down, is the outro of the song. Because in the outro, after he's done rapping and obviously establishes himself in the rap game, his outro goes, he goes, triple crown, MVP, 4 batting champion, 11 all-star. Like, he just like lists all of his accomplishments, and it's like,
Yeah.
he like makes sure that, like, when you hear that song, if you end up thinking, even if you think, well, like, wait, that wasn't anything special, he makes sure he's like, wait, but like, remember, I'm a triple crown winner, MVP, 4-time batting champ, 11-time all-star. Like, he's just like reinforces like how just awesome Miguel Cabrera is.
Yes. Yeah. That outro is great. And I also see here, and you and I talked about this before. We love Ronnie Rodriguez, a
Yes.
very under the radar, player for the Tigers. I'm sure a lot of people have not been paying that much attention to him in the last few years. But aside from that, Ronnie Rodriguez was kind of like a utility guy. Had a great batting stance, right? Like very much like Gary Sheffield. Beast. He was a beast. And I followed him on like his social media and everything, and we discovered that he was a rapper and he had a bunch of rap songs. And so I'm reading this article, an M Live article. They said, Ronnie Rodriguez, he's now with the Milwaukee Brewers, but Cabrera used a handful of Ronnie Rodriguez's songs as his walk-up music back in 2018. I thought that was pretty awesome.
So pretty much what you're saying is, if there is baseball, we can 100% expect Miggy's walk-up music to be his own rap song.
I wouldn't put it past you. I would hope so.
God.
That would be
that
insane.
is going to be hilarious.
He's always had really good taste in his walk-up songs. I've always loved it. He kind of, it's always like like a Spanish song. Like, you don't know the lyrics, but it's like a banger and it's great. So what's tough though, what is sad is, kind of to change the subject here a little bit, but Cabrera actually, he looked great in spring training, right? He looked really good in spring training.
Did he put on weight again?
No, he actually lost like 25
No, I know
pounds.
he lost weight, but I thought you were about to tell me that he put it all back on during all this COVID.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he has. What I was gonna say is, the sad thing is that he looked great in spring training, and I thought, everyone was saying he lost all this weight. He looks the best I've ever seen him. He's very close to several milestones in his career. I want to say he's within 20 to 30 homers away from 500 career homers. And he's also a couple hundred hits away from 3,000 career hits. Wow. And the thing about Mickey is, look, he's only getting older. He's probably not going to be playing that much first base anymore. He'll probably DH by the time, I would think Spencer Torkelson joins the Tigers within 2 years. I think so. He could honestly join with us tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we're not that great right now, so.
No, but I think at that point in time, Cabrera will still be playing. We won't trade him, but he'll probably be DHing, and that helps Cabrera in the sense that he won't be playing first base, so he can maintain all of his ability and strength and whatever he has left at the plate. But this no baseball thing, man, just puts a huge damper on Cabrera at the plate.
But when it comes back, there's one of the things is universal DH is what they're talking about. So I mean, maybe it's a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. They for this season and for 2021, they were saying, and I think I think if you propose it, you're not going back, right? If you're going to have a universal DH for 2 years, for 2 seasons, why would you say, let's go back to having the pitcher bat? There's no way. It's totally going to change.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. But yeah, I just feel like we're just probably not getting baseball until like mid-August at this rate.
Well, I don't even know where it stands, right? I know that
Well, Manfred just rejected the latest offers where we're at.
I know,
And
but that has happened like 4 times, dude. Like,
that's what I'm saying. So what's going to happen is like he has per their agreement in March, he can start the season whenever he wants because he's the commissioner. And the commissioner, this is why I don't think Trevor Bauer will ever be a commissioner. The commissioner works for the owners. That's their job, is they represent and work for all the owners, not the players, not the fans, but the owners. And the players keep offering this 50-50 revenue, playoff regular season, split, whatever. And the owners don't want that. They don't care. They know that not nobody, but a lot of their viewership comes in the postseason. Not a lot of people are tapped in during the regular season. It's a long haul. It's one of those sports where you can like, all right, it's opening day. I'm super locked in. I love the Tigers. You watch for 3 weeks. Then you do something for a month. You come back and it's like, all right, how are the Tigers doing? You check in. It's like, oh, cool. We still got 2 more months to go.
Yes.
So
because you're playing every day, every single day.
Exactly. So, realistically, he's just going to keep on rejecting these offers until it gets to the point where it's like, okay, like you're starting no matter what, and the owners are getting their piece of the pie. The players are getting their prorated salary that they want. So he can say he's pleasing the players, but they're getting their salary for 50 games or 60 games, nothing compared to what they're asking for, 70 to 80 games. And then it will just go right into the playoffs, and the owners are just going to, have their cake and eat it too, and have just a ton of profit from those playoff viewerships in the shortened season.
So I follow a lot of players on social media, and I've seen a lot of guys within the last week have been throwing bullpens. They're in the batting cage, and players are getting ready as if the season could happen at any moment. But as of today, there was some news that stated that there are 5. They basically said players.
And there's 5 players and 3 employees.
Yes, yes.
And they still have more people to test. They haven't tested everyone.
I was going to say, so 5 players and 3 employees supposedly have COVID. And
from the Phillies organization.
In Clearwater, Florida. So what does that mean? First off, it means that teams are down there, and then they've been practicing. Because I would think since spring training ended that a lot of those guys stayed where they were, right? So either in Arizona and Florida. They all have homes there.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Which, by the way, Arizona and Florida are like the 2 like epicenter hotspots of COVID-19 right now as of today.
Yeah. Yes.
Really
Michigan is we're chilling. So
we're chilling for now, but just wait 2-3 weeks. Just watch and see what happens, because we got everyone going back outside and stuff again. I mean,
but I mean, what do you think? And now they're saying Jeff Passan's saying that the Blue Jays shut down their spring training facility in Dunedin, which is right down the road, because supposedly one of their players is experiencing the symptoms of the virus, and he was hanging out
with one of the Phillies guys.
With one of the Phillies guys. So, like, is this scenario right now, today, does that affect baseball going in, like, starting next week?
I mean,
because we haven't seen in any sport that's taken place. We haven't seen anyone that is being played right now. We haven't seen anyone get the virus and seen what teams do because of this.
So
this is.
I think, I mean, it really all depends, right? You got to test everyone, and then you take the players that test positive, employees that test positive, and in theory, you quarantine those people and everyone else is healthy and fine and the show can go on. But I just wonder if baseball was being played right now and they had very strict guidelines in place to prevent this stuff from happening, would these guys be sicker right now? You know what I mean?
Right. Like that's what I'm saying is it feels like at any moment here, hopefully, that an actual agreement will be made and baseball is eventually played. Hopefully, maybe by the end of the month. But it's nearly June 20th, and what, 15 guys could have the virus right now?
Yeah.
It's not fair to the Blue Jays and the Phillies to start without them. Or, what do you do in this scenario? I think it totally screws everything up. For sure.
I think it definitely does screw everything up because you also have to think about, a lot of the players that, have been saying for the past months, let's play. And now you hear, oh my God, so-and-so on the Phillies and the Blue Jays are sick. I don't want to go out there anymore. Are you kidding me?
Right.
So,
and I saw as a pitcher too, supposedly. And
Jesus,
they're the guy who's touching the ball the most out of anybody, So listen, it's crazy. Every episode, baseball is, we just don't know. The discussions are always
every episode. It's closer and further away from being played. It's insane.
Yes. So
I don't even know how those two things can be happening at the same time, but that's just what's happening.
Yeah, I will be gone all of next week. Right, I'll be taking my golf trip. I hope in 2 weeks when we return, that it will be like the first week of July, and that there will be a plan in place and baseball will be back. I hope, Jason. I hope. I don't know. But what I do know is that right now we are going to go to our interview with Averee Dovesk. She is an intern with SiriusXM Radio. She also worked at the Golf Channel last summer and is on the golf team for Hofstra. So take a look. All right, welcome back to Bagels and Locks. We're here with our guest, my friend from the Golf Channel. We met last summer because we both interned there. Averee Dovesk, ladies and gentlemen. Averee, it's great to have you here on Bagels and Locks today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you guys.
Yeah. So what's going on? I know you're a little bit over across the country, out in California. You've been living in quarantine just like we have for who knows how long. We don't even know what day it is. I'm sure you don't know what day it is because that's just how it is these days. But what's new with you and what have you been up to?
Yeah, it feels like it's March 854th. But yeah, I'm out in California and life is starting to resume pretty normally, to be quite honest. Big thing for me was obviously when the golf courses opened back up, that was kind of my sense of normalcy a little bit. I do work part-time at a pizza place as well here, and that was strange because I worked the entire time through the quarantine, and we have plastic shields up, we have masks, we have gloves, and the plastic shields were so kind enough to trap in the 535-degree oven heat. Ooh. So I'm sweating making pizzas. But besides that, I've been doing my podcast and working with a few companies and working out, working on myself, getting outside a lot. The weather's been beautiful. Normally we have a little June gloom or, gloom in May, and honestly, it's been bright and sunny almost every day here. So pretty thankful for that.
What city in California?
So technically I'm Laguna Niguel. So that's next to Laguna Beach, which is Southern California, which is about an hour from LA and an hour up from San Diego. So I'm in the middle on the coast.
Nice. How long were because the golf courses here were closed, and then it turned into, they're probably closed for at least a couple of weeks, maybe a month. And then when everything reopened, the only way you could play was to walk, which is fine because it was like early May, late April, so the weather wasn't that bad. But how long for you were courses closed out in California?
At first it was just driving ranges open, and then it became golf courses, at least in my area. in the courses I practice at. I want to say end of April. I was kind of hesitant at first because I didn't know what kind of like social distancing guidelines they were going to put into place and if I had to wear a mask or not. And if it's 84 degrees and I have to wear a mask, it's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
And really, how long do you want to put yourself out there for in that scenario? But it's been great. Everyone has put forth their like best effort in the situation, and people are respecting the social distancing guidelines. People are wearing their masks when need be. And as far as golfing, though, what's really annoying is like not taking the flag stick out. And I know that's a new rule, and I know you can putt with the flag stick in, but personally, I don't like it. So that's been like the number one thing on my nerves. But other than that, I'm happy to be playing. I know that a lot of other sports were limited. I remember the golf courses were open, but they took down the basketball hoops.
Yes.
So you couldn't play basketball. And I was like, okay, well, I'm very fortunate then.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for Jason because I know that Jason's not the biggest golfer in the world.
No,
but
I'm not.
Even though you're representing, you got the right bucket hat on.
Yeah.
But what
you're wearing the
say,
NBC golf shirt, Brandon, so I had to match the vibe of today's episode.
And you got the Nike polo on too. I didn't realize it was Nike until it just snuck into the corner of the screen. But you bring up a really valid point in the flag. So I don't know if for you guys over in California, like some of the courses I played, it's either there's like a styrofoam cup that is in the cup itself. So like if you were to sink your putt, it would just hit the styrofoam. But I've also seen it where there's like a little hook on the flag and there's nothing in the cup that's blocking it. And so if you sink your putt or if the ball goes in the cup, you just take your club and go over like under the hook and it'll pull the cup out so that you can easily grab your ball. Is it this like same thing over there?
No, but that's pretty cool. So what we're doing is we just have like a shallower cup so that if your ball goes into it, it doesn't really drop all the way down. So it's kind of like surfaced. So it's just barely above the normal grass level. And then, yeah, we have the same styrofoam pool noodle type thing that a lot of courses are doing where it like kind of just ricochets off that. Either way, not a fan. Again, grateful to be out there, but yeah, not my thing. Because I've gotten gypped a couple times where I like clearly sucked a putt and it like ricochets out of there.
But I feel your struggle. But in this scenario, I think it's okay to give yourself the benefit of the doubt and be like, well, like that's a COVID birdie or like that's a COVID putt. Like you gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Let's get into it here. You are probably, ever since I met you, you're probably one of the busiest people that I know. Like you are extremely busy. But I want to know, I mean, you're on the women's golf team at Hofstra. You're doing all these different jobs all at once, sweating, making pizzas. What is your dream job? What do you want to do?
I get asked this a lot, and my answer for quite some years has been to be on air on live tournament golf. I'd love to go to tournaments, travel, and especially, you know, being younger and having that itch to travel is great. I have been to Europe a couple times, and I'm planning on going back in November for a couple weeks. Constantly love to travel. So you can pretty much throw me in a paper bag and I'd be okay and I'd make the most of it. So I think that's a special quality that would make me, you know, kind of right for the job. And I know it's not all glorious, and I know that traveling has a lot of downsides and all that, but I definitely think that could be a good fit for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, for you going to school, you go to school across the country, so you're already traveling back and forth, and it's tough. I mean, being in journalism too, a lot of it requires that passion for travel. If you hate flights or if you hate being on the move, like it's not for you. But you know, you seem like you know what you're suited for and what you like, and yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about how you play golf at Hofstra. So kind of tell us a little bit about your career there, if you had offers to play at any other schools, and just when you started golfing.
Yeah, so I knew probably my end of freshman year, beginning of sophomore year of high school that, one, I wanted to play in college golf. Two, I wanted to move. I have been in my same house my entire life, 18 years, lived in the same bedroom. And I know moving is really hard for a lot of people, but that is something I was itching to do just because Orange County in California is known as a bubble. You have a lot of the same type of people. You have a lot of the same stereotypes and stigmas. And I really wanted to break away from that. So I started researching colleges, even as far as Europe and in the UK, to play golf there.
Wow.
Little to find out that they don't give athletic scholarships. So the plane rides alone were a cost of tuition. So I quickly kind of just said, yeah, maybe not. So I started looking in New York because I knew that I wanted to try living in a city, because I've been to LA, I've been to San Diego, and where I am is very populated, but I have never been in the, high rise kind of lifestyle. So I started researching in New York. I talked to a couple schools in the city. They weren't Division I, some of them were, but NYU was one I was talking to, but they were Division III. And as a great a school that is, Division III doesn't give out scholarships, and it's just pretty expensive. So I started looking at Hofstra and another school in the city who was D1, and when I visited New York, that was it, game over. I immediately said, this is the place I want to be. Just the city was so captivating to me, which sounds so stupid, and every time I go in, I find something different that I hadn't noticed before, and I'm constantly amazed by it, and I love working in it, and I love being in it, and hopefully that doesn't go away over the next couple of years. But I went to visit New York my junior year in the summer, or no, sophomore year summer. Went to visit New York, and that's when I met the Hofstra coach. I met a couple other coaches, and they pretty much talked up the school, took a tour. I really liked it. What they offered me was perfect for what I was looking for and what my family was looking for. And I said, yeah. So when I committed, the weather was something I factored in, but didn't really factor how heavily it would weigh on my golf game. So that definitely hit me pretty hard my first year. I definitely got worse than I was in high school, and that was really, really hard to swallow, because you expect to be putting so much work and hours and effort into something, and for you to not get better is the most frustrating thing in the world. So yeah, I mean, fall and spring season was great, and I love my team. We're so close. We're not cliquey. It was awesome, and this fall and beginning of spring season was great as well, but the weather is just very hard to deal with because I'm used to playing year round here.
Yes, that perfectly feeds into what I was going to ask you. Is you're so used to living in, perfect weather year round. Like, you could golf any day of the week, December, January, February, March. So, you kind of touched upon it, but how did that affect you in, the cold months in New York? Like, when you weren't on break and when you were, at school at Hofstra? How do you guys practice? Like, do you have facilities? And your freshman year, what was that adjustment like for you?
So freshman year was interesting because my previous coach had just left the program. So we had a new guy come in, and he didn't really have much golf background. He was a great guy. He still is a great guy. He is our current coach. But as far as coaching collegiate athletes, he didn't have any experience. And that was something I was really scared for. Because one, we don't have the practice facilities like other schools. We don't have our own golf course. We don't have our own practice range. We barely have any indoor facilities. They would make us putt on the carpet of our upstairs athletic facility. And it was just
so tough.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh
So
God.
my short game sucked really bad. Like, because yeah, you can hit balls, like you can hit driver, you can hit irons into simulators, but you can't simulate how a chip bounces out or a putt rolls or trying to read, it's just really hard to simulate that. So
yeah,
that really hit me pretty hard, plus the coaching adjustment. And now this upcoming year, luckily there were some changes made, because some of us were just like, we don't want to be here if we can't get proper practice. We're not here to be bad golfers and come into our spring season scared. We should feel confident. We should know our game. We should know our swings on. So they put a up a practice putting green in our athletic facility, which I have yet to putt on, but I do believe it's finished. And now we have a net on campus because previously we were going to the PGA Superstore, and 7 girls in one bay does not work for an hour. You get like 3 minutes of hitting time. So hopefully that'll improve stuff a little bit. But yeah, that was definitely a really big challenge. And at first it didn't hit me. I was like, why am I not playing golf well? Like, why am I sucking, to be quite honest? And then it hit me, Avery, you haven't hit a golf course in about a month and a half. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, well, the thing is, for those who golf, and for those who don't golf wouldn't understand, but golf is all mental. It's all in your head, right? So I would think that all that frustration of not having like the proper, ability to putt, even as basic as that sounds, like that alone is so challenging. I know I've played the courses up at Michigan State a bunch of times, and there's the one course, it's called Forest Acres West. It's like one of the nicest courses in Michigan, and that's where the teams practice. And so they have this insane, like it is massive, this golf facility, because as you know, Michigan and New York have similar winters, probably a little worse here. But regardless, it is this insane, like I always look at it, I'm like, wow, I wish I could go in there and just see like what they have, because it's massive. So to hear what you're saying is mind-boggling, because like you would think as a college golf program they have the right, ability and space for you to practice and get better.
Yeah, and not to mention our clothing order for these first 2 years, like the heaviest jacket they gave us was a pullover. So I got into I got really angry at my coach one day because we were practicing chipping outside. It was like 30-something degrees with like, I don't know, you know how it, like if you go on your weather app, it'll say it like feels like. Well, it said it felt like 17 degrees, and we're not a cardiovascular sport. So we're not running, we're not chasing. So just to be stagnant and chipping was brutal. And I got really upset. I said, this isn't good for my well-being. And then a bunch of players on our team got sick. And I'm not saying that that's because of but that wasn't smart to do right before we're going away to fly to South Carolina. So, it's a learning process. Like I said, my coach is new. We're still a very young, new team. So, I'm not going to point fingers at, what's to blame there, but definitely there's some ways to get more efficient practice in the winter for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I was going to ask you how COVID affected your routine and practice and stuff, but we sort of went over that in the beginning. So I guess I'll ask you, tell us about your best round during the season and what was going through your mind. And as we mentioned earlier, golf is such a mental game. How do you stay focused and poignant on what's going on out there?
So since our spring season got cut pretty short, I had like 2 decent rounds. I still wouldn't call them good rounds. One time I shot a 77 this last spring, and that was with 2 triple bogeys. So par was 72. So I triple bogeyed the first 2 holes and was immediately 6 over. But then I played really, really well the rest of the round. So I'm going to count that as a good round, even though my score doesn't really reflect it. Again, I think that was a combination of nerves and not being prepared and not being confident in my swing, because it's so mental. Like, you don't forget how to swing a golf club, but you forget how to be confident in competition with all that time off. So I think that was the biggest difference between that. But yeah, sometimes I did play really well.
How to swing your golf club. I was going to say, I have had rounds where I am flabbergasted because I can't hit a ball for my life. But then, after 10 swings through 2 different holes, I should say, I hit one ball decently. I'm like, okay, I got it back. I wanted to ask you, it's kind of similar to that. When you're playing and you're stringing together several bad holes, right? Maybe you just had back-to-back double bogeys, back-to-back triple bogeys. And for you, who plays collegiately, what are some of your tips for letting that go? Just forgetting that it even happened, because it's hard, and you as much as you try, you just can't forget. So what do you suggest?
So this is something I work constantly on. Constantly. And it has been such a battle because I am so competitive, and I have always played other sports. I grew up playing volleyball. I was super into it, and golf didn't really compare to the competitiveness as that. And so in high school, I wore my emotions on my shoulders on the golf course. If I had a bad shot, I'd let it carry 3-4 holes. I could not let it go. I would keep reflecting, keep beating myself over it. Then I realized nowadays that does nothing, and it makes it 10 times worse. So I was actually talking to Webb Simpson, a PGA Tour pro's caddy, and he goes, we have a 10-second rule. You have 10 seconds to make comments about it, talk about it, do whatever you want, stomp your club. After that, it's over. So I thought that was pretty cool, because not only just giving yourself a timeline that you established before the round to say, you know what, you get as mad as you want, but then it's over. You can't go back and fix it. And that's something, I think it's a maturity thing in the sport as you play more rounds and as you get it. Golf is not, there's a book called Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, and that couldn't be more true. It is full of unlucky bounces and lucky bounces, and sometimes you hit a perfect shot and it hits a sprinkler head, and you could beat yourself up about why was that sprinkler head there, but it happened and it's over. So something I'm constantly working on. This year, by far, I was the best at that. And that shows with that round I was just talking about, having those 2 triple bogeys. I didn't let it defeat me. I said, you know what? It's go time. Like, we're over those. So yeah, definitely something I'm working on.
Yeah, those are good words, but then again, it's hard to stay positive out there sometimes. For your average golfer, for sure, it's a struggle. So I wanted to talk to you about what you did specifically at Golf Channel. I know you had an extremely early schedule because you were on like the producing side of television and whatnot, and you also got to do your own, as if you were hosting Morning Drive. You remember, like, you got to sit at the round table. So tell us about some of the things you got to do in your experience.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my mornings started at 3 a.m. I had to be in the office every day.
Wow.
Very early, but you do get used to it. And the issue is I'm like so busy where I would like go out and have to practice after work, or I'd go and have to work out after work, that my sleep was definitely not where it should have been, which kind of like snowballed into, my eating habits and stuff like that. So that was a hard adjustment. But I think as time got on and the summer, came to a close, I finally got used to it. But yeah, every morning I'd walk in, we'd help produce, it is a live show on Morning Drive, so we'd produce all live clips, we'd clip together segments, whatever had happened in golf that night before, maybe in another country that morning before. If we get feed that someone just sank a putt on the 18th hole Friday morning, we're constantly feeding that out because it is live TV. So yeah, clipping and cutting stuff for the show, working with the hosts were great, and everyone I met on that team was just awesome. I learned so much, and as you mentioned, I got to do an on-camera reel per se, where I, did a update and I got to read, and we put together the whole package for me. So when I did that, that's really what started the escalation of my career and kind of what I'm doing now. So Golf Channel was, I did it very young. I did it right after my freshman year of college, excuse me. So doing that so early on definitely, was the best decision I ever made, because now my career, I feel so confident in it, and all the stuff I've done just completing my sophomore year. If, I still have 2 more years left, what's even going to come of that? So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're only entering your junior year, so you still have like half of college left. You got a lot of time. You'll be okay.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
I'd say definitely more so a blessing. But anyways, you're talking about the podcast that you started earlier. I believe it's called Why You Suck at Golf. So why did you choose that title and decide to talk about things that most golfers struggle with?
Yeah, so I had wanted to start this podcast for the last 2 years since I entered college, and I'd always had my reservations about it, and I didn't know exactly what direction I wanted to go with it. And then I started thinking, if I wanted to do this, it needs to happen now. No one's going to do it for me. And 2, why do I have to know exactly what direction it's going to go into? It's my podcast. It's not anybody else's podcast. So once I figured that, I can direct what I want my viewers listening to and the conversation I want to have, it became a lot more clear to me, like, wow, I can actually do something with this and really enjoy it. So it hasn't only been about, why people suck at golf. I've had a lot of great interviews on there, from PGA Tour players to caddies to journalists to, other hosts on the Golf Channel. So I'm growing a lot, not only as a podcaster, but as an interviewer. And I don't do any podcasts with notes. So I do that because I want to keep myself on my toes, and I never know what's going to happen, because I worked a little bit at SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio, and I didn't know what we were going to talk about on the show that day. And so some days I was a little scared, like, what's going to come up next? I'm constantly on my toes, and it was hard getting used to that. So now having my own podcast and getting a lot more practice with that, it has been such a blessing, and I think I get better at it every episode.
You didn't know what you guys were going to be talking about that day? Like, they
No,
didn't have, like,
some days
outline,
not.
or really?
No, so we'd because our show's an hour, so we would go meet at the pub before for a pre-show meeting, which is basically just catching up on what you guys do this week. And all right, well, that's cool, let's go walk on over to the studio. So yeah, some days I would have absolutely no clue. I know sometimes we'd have guests, and then I know who the guests are prior to the show, but as far as what exactly we were going into, no clue.
Wow. Well, I mean, Jason, I could see us doing Bagels and Locks with no notes. I mean, just knowing what we wanted to talk about. Like, usually things flow and you think of things that you probably wouldn't have thought of when you're making that outline. But I would think for you, like, interning at somewhere like Sirius, that you would at least know what you were going to talk about that day. That's really...
I mean, it's because I was so comfortable with the people I was co-hosting with. So I felt like conversation came very naturally, and I think they did too. And they kind of knew what we were talking about. And if there was a tournament the week prior, obviously we're going to talk about the tournament results and what's up and coming. But yeah, it was, at first I was like, okay, let's try to get, like, just stick my 2 cents in there. And it's also challenging because they're, like, seasoned professionals, they're really good at what they do, and they're really good at talking on air. So it was sometimes hard to know when to jump in. And when you don't know what you're talking about, you don't want to step on anybody's line that they're going to say next. So knowing when to jump in was definitely the hardest part. In the first few episodes, I remember I, like, barely said a couple words. I'd talk for a little bit, but definitely more confident now, for sure.
Yeah. Last question here. I wanted to ask you, how did you get some of your guests on Why You Suck at Golf? And have you gotten any sort of feedback in response to your podcast?
It's a good question. So some of the guests I have personally reached out to, and others I have friends of friends. So I've made a lot of, connections in the industry. And being at SiriusXM, I had some of these guests who were on my podcast were on the radio show. So I, had their numbers. So I just texted them or gave them a call or sent them an email. The feedback has been so positive, and not only from my guests on the show, but from friends, family. Everyone's been very supportive, because it's a jump. And I'm sure you guys know, posting yourself and posting your words and your viewpoints it's not always going to be digested the way you wanted to or taken the way you wanted to. So it was a jump I took, and the feedback that I got, Webb Simpson's caddy, once again, he said a comment that was like, how old are you again? Like, you're just so good at what you do. It, just stuff like that keeps me going and makes me want to get better at it. So yeah, it's been really positive, really positive.
Well, Averee, I understand that you are very busy. You're great at what you do. I'm super glad that, we were lucky enough to cross paths last summer, and it's hard to believe that it's literally been a year.
I know, it's heartbreaking.
Since you went down to Orlando. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it feels almost like yesterday. Like, I felt like we were hanging out getting boba every day, and now I haven't seen you in like 11 months. Cool.
I know. We did so much together, and we had busy schedules. Yours was a lot different than mine, waking up at 3-4 in the morning, and Obviously, you were working out and golfing much more than I was, but yeah, it's great that we got to catch up. Before you go, though, we are going to have a little bit of fun here, and we're going to play a game called This or That. So, Jason, just to let you know, we can go every two. We got a list here. So I'll start off. I'll shoot the first two questions at you. So, Avery, first things first.
Mm-hmm.
Desert or city life?
City.
Okay. Charlie's California Club sandwich or a California sushi roll?
Ooh. Well, the Charlie's California is definitely like top notch. Absolutely.
See, I knew it. I was like trying to think. I was brainstorming before this, and I was like, I remember we were at the mall.
You know when you go to the mall and you're like round two and you're like, yeah, that's the sandwich. You like don't know what you want to eat until you try it. You're like, that's it. Yeah, we'll go.
And that place, their samples are huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might as well just like walk around with a disguise every time, and then like 4 samples in, you got like a half sandwich. I love it.
Very true. Very true.
All right, so are you an early bird or night owl?
Both. Can I do that? Is that possible?
I don't think so, but we'll let you bend the rules.
I wake up at 6:30.
We'll let it slide.
Okay, thank you.
Golf or bird watching?
Golf? Although, like, sometimes it's hard if you're watching the LPGA. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Netflix and Spotify, or pirating all of your streaming services?
Well, I have Spotify. I don't have Netflix, but I log into other people's Netflix. So does that count?
Oh, you're one of those.
Sadly, because I watch TV maybe once every 2 months. Unless it's the news.
You know what? You're right. I don't put that past you. You got better things going on.
Yeah, I watch the news a lot, but that's it.
Okay. Getting served chips and salsa before your meal at a Mexican restaurant or not at all?
Before my meal.
All right. Would you rather have hiccups for the rest of your life or constantly feel like you have to sneeze for the rest of your life?
Those are horrible. I think
pick one.
I think hiccups. Because sneezing is scary because your heart stops a little bit.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with you there.
No, I think sneezing.
Really?
You're not sneezing. Yeah. You're not sneezing. It's just like but then you're fine. But then hiccups is tough. Like you have hiccups. Hiccups are the worst. Like the feeling, that feeling in your chest of a hiccup is worse than the feeling of I'm about to sneeze.
But if I gotta sneeze, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Walk around with a mini heart attack all day. Sounds awful.
I don't feel that way. But you guys, you know what? You do you. You do you.
All right, Groupon or clipping your own coupons from the newspaper? Brandon wrote that.
Groupon. I love Groupon.
Really? You're a big Groupon fan?
Big Groupon fan. I actually bought some stock of Groupon. I let it go because it wasn't doing that well. But yeah, big Groupon girl.
That's crazy. You are quite the Groupon fan. All right. So this one's tough. These next two are really difficult. Are you ready? Would you rather be sticky or itchy for the rest of your life?
Sticky.
Jay, what do you think?
I agree. I think being itchy sucks. I mean, they both suck, but being I don't know actually.
But if you're sticky,
I feel like if you're itchy, you can scratch it and kind of ease the pain of that a little bit. But if you're sticky, you're just you're always sticky. What do you do about that?
Yeah, you can't golf.
I don't know.
You're
like this. You'd get used to it, maybe.
Okay, so imagine this next one. Would you rather have Cheeto dust on your fingers for a year or wet socks for an entire year? I think. You probably don't.
Brandon, I know you love Cheetos, so I'll go with Cheetos just for you.
But it's not. It's okay. I guess Cheetos is the right answer.
Wet socks is horrid. Horrid.
Yeah. Would you rather be able to fly or be able to turn invisible?
Fly. I want to travel.
Yes.
And
I
then,
agree.
would you rather be able to play 10 different instruments beautifully or speak 10 different languages fluently?
So I play a lot of instruments now.
Really?
Yeah, but I think languages would probably better myself in my future travel career. So we're gonna go with languages.
While you're flying from place to place with Cheeto fingers.
Yeah, and sticky skin and hiccups.
Yeah.
Okay, Avery, last but not least, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses? Think about it.
I'm just picturing it, and I'm think the first one, because like I can't take 1,000, but like maybe like if I like get the right angle, I could like do some damage on one.
Just take like your 6-iron out and just start slamming them all.
Yeah, exactly. I think yeah, we'd go with one.
Imagine the horse-sized duck though, or no, the duck-sized. The what? No, this confused. The horse-sized duck. That would be gross. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if it just like opened, like snuck into your room, like right behind you, like while we were doing this right now. That would freak me out. So I think I would take some duck-sized horses.
Yeah, I would have to take a minute and solve the issue, but don't worry, I have my golf clubs right here. Got some new golf clubs. Very
Oh,
might scrape them up a little bit, but it would be worth it.
what'd you get?
I got TaylorMade Sim irons and driver.
Nice.
Yeah, finally bit the bullet. I've had the same clubs in my bag since 2013, so
Wow.
I finally said, Avery, spend the money.
But a good set will last you, I mean, decades.
Well, clearly, the last one lasted me 7 years, so it was a good investment.
Yeah, no, it is. It's tough. It's like a tough, bullet to bite, but you gotta do it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Avery, this was a blast. It was so good to see you. I'm really glad that you came on Bagels and Locks today. And yeah, it's been real. It's been a long time, but it's been real.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And Jason, it was nice meeting you as well. And hopefully I get to see you when I go back to New York in 2 months. Maybe we could do a little meetup because you're not too far.
No, not too far. I don't know where I'll be. That's the thing. Because, graduated and all. So I don't know. Anyone out there watching right now?
Yeah, big guy with a diploma. Come on, hit him up.
Yeah. All right, welcome back to Bagels and Locks. So yeah, Avery's great. She's got a lot under her belt. She does so much. I don't know how she keeps up her time management skills like that. I mean, we hung out a lot when we were in Florida together last year, and her work set, we would start at like 9 a.m, and like she said, she went into work at like 3-4 a.m, and she would constantly, as soon as she was done at work, like she'd go out and play and she'd work out and like keep in shape, because she is an athlete and that's her job 24/7. So Avery's great, and we wish her the best for her next season, and to keep it up. So it was great to have Avery on. So Jason, we're going to talk about the Belmont Stakes here, and when it comes to horse racing and gambling, my only knowledge stems from horse racing and Grand Theft Auto Online. I don't know if you have dabbled into that recently.
Has that been profitable for you?
It's been pretty profitable. I've hit some big bets in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's great. It's so realistic. It's insane. So I've done a little bit of learning here and there. Sometimes, high risk, high reward with these horses. But yeah, there are some differences this year. So why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah. So this year we have the Belmonts. Well, every year there's obviously the Triple Crown, which is the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes, and then the Belmont Stakes. And usually these races are ran in that exact order: Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont. But this year, because of coronavirus and everything, Belmont is going to be first, And so that's something different, something new. And in addition to that, it's a shorter length. So usually the horses run a mile and a half, which is about 12 furlongs, is like the official horse racing measurement they use. And now they're running 1.125 miles or 9 furlongs, also known as 1 1/8 mile. So it's pretty interesting this year that this race is first, and that's how everything shook out. But recently, horse racing, honestly, has been super interesting as of late. Because I don't know if you remember last year in the Kentucky Derby, or if anyone listening that watches horse racing or watched the Kentucky Derby last year was definitely going to remember this, that the winner, Maximum Security, he crossed the line first, ended up being disqualified for impeding forward motion of several of the other horses, making Country House the winner by default. And it's like the first time that it has ever happened. Everyone thought that there was like a fix-in with the judges because Country House had like an insane payout, and Maximum Security's like wasn't that insane. He was like supposed to win the race or something like that.
Yeah, he was the lock, right?
Yeah. No, I took him and I lost on that. And it was heartbreaking. It was, crazy. So recently, horse racing has been, pretty fired up, but this race, we got, the usual 10 horses in the field. So we have Tiz the Law is the favorite. And a lot of people are saying this is the best horse in the race. And if you've watched the Arkansas Derby or any of the other derbies, he has looked very impressive, very strong. Sort of runs kind of like I want to say like American Pharoah, sort of strides, like the way he's moving is so gracefully, you can't really tell how powerful and fast he's going, but he's hauling it out there. But a lot of the expert picks that I've read are not really looking into him because he hasn't raced since March, which is like a long time in between races. And during this COVID stuff, all these horses have been racing in these smaller time races, because, I guess horses are fine from getting COVID, or as far as we know they are. And then coming in second is Sol Volante, who closed fast to finish second in the Tampa Bay Derby and looked good last week in an allowance race at Gulfstream. He'll be flying in at the end and moved up with the addition of Speedy 4 left in the field. So he has some of the second best odds. I haven't really seen a lot of people on him. Most people I've seen are on these next two horses, which are Tap It to Win, Tap It to Win had an impressive allowance race at Belmont, and he's the son of Tap It and has won 3 of the 5 races in his career. He's super talented. And then Dr. Post is a pretty inexperienced horse. He's run 3 times and won twice, and I think he finished like second or third in that other race. So they're saying he could be a potential superstar coming up. So most of the expert picks have been on Tap It to Win and Dr. Post. And then the other horses are Pneumatic, Farmington Road, believe it or not.
Wow, yeah.
4 left, Max Player, Modernist, and Jungle Runner. So I'm pretty excited for the Belmont Stakes. And personally, I think I'm going to be fading the experts, and I'm going to be taking Tiz the Law, actually, even though they're saying, if his only downside isn't that he hasn't raced since March, but he's just been killing everyone, I think I got to go for it. I don't think the juice is that bad on it. And I think he could do it. But definitely, if you don't like Tiz the Law, definitely look at Tap It to Win It and Dr. Post. One of those 3 horses is probably going to end up winning the Belmont Stakes.
Do you think the numbers and amount of money that's going to be bet on the Belmont Stakes will be higher than usual, considering horse racing it's a big deal, but this is it, right? This is the main event that only lasts a handful of minutes, and at the same time, there's not going to be people there, and it's not like not having people in the stands watching the race motivates the horses any more to run faster
Who
or
knows? I mean, I'm not in the mind of a horse, or
well,
they
neither am
obviously have
I.
the blinders on, so they can't really see. But I mean, I feel like it's got to have some type of impact. I don't
I
really
don't.
know what it's gonna be, but
I don't think so. You really think so? You think that the
well, when
cheering?
they're trotted out to take like the pictures in the winner's circle, and like when they're initially trotted on, some of them get spooked and get scared of the crowd and stuff like that. So I mean, it could be a mental horse thing that comes into play. Who
Could
knows?
even be, we could even see a record. And this is like one of the fastest races completed. That's you
Well,
talk about how
I think I think it's certainly going to be one of the faster races completed because it's just simply a shorter
oh
race, which
it is shorter.
also confuses me. Why? Like why are we making it a shorter race? For what purpose? Who is more at risk for making this race the normal length?
Right.
Because
And
there's no
what is that?
fans. I like the jockeys. From the difference between 1 1/8 mile to 1.5 miles when you're on horseback, how many seconds is that the
Yeah,
jockeys could
and
be
you're
at
not
greater exposure?
yeah, you're right. And you're not going to contract the virus from a horse like so what right? Why shorten the usual length? That is
It
weird.
makes no sense to me. So
I don't
it
know.
should be interesting, and that's another reason why I like Tis the Law, is because it's a shorter race, and he's just been so dominant. And if there's less room for error there, right, for another horse to catch him and for something to go wrong, it makes more sense for him to get it done.
So you talk about how you like Tis the Law. And by our next episode, obviously we will know
Who
who
won?
will win. So we'll
I'll
check in
probably
on
be
you there.
wrong.
But who do you think will win between Curtis Razor Blades and Alexander Drago Volkov this Saturday night in the UFC? What are
Yeah,
your
so we're
thoughts?
going straight from Belmont into UFC. It's gonna feel like kind of a normal Saturday, I guess, because there's just gonna be sort of sports on for most of the day. This is a really exciting fight because the winner of this fight is supposedly going to fight for the heavyweight belt against I believe Daniel Cormier has it right now, and it should be a good one. The thing about Volkov is that he is 6'7", and he's a crazy good striker who gives a lot of his opponents a really hard time because I mean 6'7" is a crazy tall height for MMA, and that implies that he has a really long reach, and can just kind of they've compared his strikes to a joust almost because it's so far away, and he can kind of peg his opponents away from him, keep him away from him the whole fight. And a lot of the people that have fought him have tried to bring him down to the mat, and he has said no. He's been on the mat, but it's sort of hard because he's so long that you can't get him into the holds and the grapples that you want unless you really beat him up first. And he has some pretty good takedown defense. He is 31-7 in his career, and he wins by knockout or technical knockout 2/3 of the time, 67% of the time. Very talented striker, as I said. And then on the other side, you have Curtis Razor Blades, who is 13-2 in his career, a lot less fights, but he has been making a lot of noise in the UFC. Originally came on the scene as a wrestler, and he's 6'4", so he does have a 3-inch height disadvantage, but he has an 80-inch reach. So him and Volkov actually have the same exact reach, which I think is gonna play a huge factor in this fight. And Blades wins by knockout or technical knockout 77% of the time. So way more than 2/3 of the time, almost, you know, a lot. So quick math right there for you. But I think this fight, the move is to take the under. So I'm going to be going under 2.5 rounds because these guys consistently are finishing fights more often than not before, it ends up going to the scorecard. And in addition to that, recently with these UFC events that are taking place in Vegas, the octagon they're using is actually smaller. I think it's 35% smaller than the real octagons that they normally are fighting in. So that causes reason for a lot more striking and a lot more grappling. So this fight is going to be bloody. It's going to be fast. And I'm telling you guys, if you're not a UFC fan, this is not one you're going to want to miss. Heavyweights, it's just a little different with them. There's just a little more oomph behind their punches and kicks. And as I said, the winner is likely going to be fighting for the heavyweight belt. So don't say I didn't warn you.
So you're saying it's going to be real bloody, a lot of hits, a lot of sounds that will be picked up on camera and on the mic. So it's
the
UFC is one of those things right now where you're hearing everything and you really seeing that punch or kick, whatever it may be, delivered and landed is that much greater with no fans out, watching at the octagon. But some good news too here. Conor McGregor is still retired, so that's great.
He has retired. We haven't
he's
we haven't
still
discussed
in
this with
retirement.
we haven't discussed this with our listeners yet. But he announced his retirement a week ago, or almost a week ago, last Saturday, the 13th. No, because that episode never got released.
I got
so
you.
Conor
in the secret files of Bagels and Locks.
Yeah, we got some underground Bagels and Locks stuff. You guys may hear, you guys may not hear. Only if you beg. But Conor McGregor announced his retirement, and it's funny, Brandon, you say that he's still retired because he has announced it like 3 different times in his career, and he always seems to come back. And I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I don't think he's gonna stay retired. I know you feel similarly, Brandon.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy comes out of retirement every once in a while, and I think he's just waiting for the right fight. And all these guys. I mean, look at, I don't know if you seen this stuff, but Mike Tyson and like Evander Holyfield have been training recently to go back fighting, and they're both 50 years old, over 50 years old. I think you throw. Granted, MMA is a little different than boxing, but I mean, Conor is still in his 30s. And if you just throw a big enough bag of money in front of these guys, they will go in there and fight. Yeah.
McGregor for sure would do it, for sure. And who knows, maybe that's his plan right now, is to go into retirement, train, do whatever, keep it low key, have no one know, and then who knows, a couple months from now or, a year down the road, he'll announce it. And, like you said, you throw a lot of money in front of those guys and anything's possible. So we can do a McGregor retirement check every episode. We'll see if he's still hanging on, he's still enjoying the retirement life, and that he hasn't, pulled a sly one on us again for the 4th time, come out of retirement and fight someone new. All right, you guys. Well, that's our show today. Thanks for tuning in. Averee, thanks for joining us as our guest today. Jason, I hope, and I don't know how many times I've said this, but I hope that by our next episode, there will be a plan in place for baseball. I'm sure you feel the same way. And, soon enough, the NBA is coming back, and we're back in business. We will have plenty to talk about, and a lot of things to look forward to and to watch.
I think it's pretty notable how much we've actually had to talk about with no sports going on, to be quite honest with you. I think we've done a pretty good job, to pat ourselves on the back real quick.
I was just going to say, like a little pat on the back, because we can only do so much. And, this is our 5th episode here, so at least over a month's worth of shows, so to speak. And outside of the KBO and UFC, I mean, that's really all that's been happening. So, yeah, Bagels and Locks will only get more interesting as time goes on and sports return. And, yeah, for now, I'm Brandon Rothberg.
Yep,
my co-host, Jason Silverstone.
You got it for me.
I'm
Jason Silverstone. And one more thing before we go, something I've been doing recently with some of my friends, because some of the salons and barbershops in Michigan have opened up recently. I still have yet to go get my hair cut, because I read an article in like Mississippi or Missouri, like some guy went and he was sick and got the barber sick, and then like over 100 people that went to this barber shop got like COVID. So like I'm kind of laying off it for a minute because I know it's probably pretty busy right now. So recently I've been rocking the backwards hat. If you can tell. So backwards hat gang, shout out to backwards hat gang, BHG, hashtag BHG. Tweet at me, Instagram me, Snapchat me, all your pictures of your backwards hat gang.
Yes, let us know. Yeah, we love it. We love to see it. Just wait to get that haircut.
It'll be nice. Bagels and Locks is recorded and edited by Jason Silverstone and Brandon Rothenberg. Theme music by Eli Weil. And special thanks to our guest Averee for coming on the show this week. See you guys.